Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another Lanzarote information bulletin. This week's news and weather from your favourite island. I'm Mike from Lanzarote Information. And as always this week, we'll be bringing you up to speed with the weather and all of the news on the island. Somewhere in the middle of the bulletin, I'll be doing my Spanish tips of the week, and it's slightly different this week. And then at the end of this video, stay tuned for 3 things you could be doing on the island next week. So let's talk about the weather first of all. The simple answer is lovely. It's kind of classic June weather here at the moment. A few fluffy white clouds in the morning that soon burn off, light breezes, hot sun, and the UV is very high at the moment in the afternoons, and then beautiful evenings with a light breeze where you can sit outside until well after dark. If you're on the island now, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's just a lovely time to be in Lanzarote. And if you're not here, well, book a flight, come on over. So let's move on to the news now. And the first news item is about an event that's taking place in San Antonio in Texas in September the 4th and 5th to be specific. Now, those of you who watch these bulletins regularly will know that San Antonio was founded in 1731 by a group of families from Lanzarote, and the people over there, or a lot of the people over there, are able to trace their lineage back to those emigrants from Lanzarote in 1731. Now, the island has twinned with San Antonio, and this is part of that kind of twinning process. The event is called Lanzarote 360 Degrees, and the Cabildo will be the team from the Cabildo will be taking a group of people from the island to San Antonio to show off our culinary skills, to talk about Lanzarote wines, and generally help the people of San Antonio who can trace their lineage back to those original settlers to have some contact with their ancestral roots. But there's a bigger objective with this, that is to encourage exporters from Lanzarote to be able to export our goods, that food we talked about, the wine, for example, to the United States. But also there's an aim to try and suggest to Texans and the people of the United States in general that Lanzarote is beautifully placed to act as a bridge to both Africa and Europe, for travellers, but also for the import and export of goods, tariffs notwithstanding, of course. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about this event as we get closer to it, and who's going and who's going to be representing Lanzarote, and I shall obviously be reporting on it for you as I find out more. Now, next up, the main sports centre, the Centro Deportivo in Arrecife, is reopening in the next few days. And those of you who regularly visit will know that it closed down last summer, and it's undergone a really big refurbishment over the last year or so, including the installation of what's called a new generation artificial pitch, which is a pitch on which our football team UD Lanzarote plays. That's actually reopening in the next couple of days or so, and there'll be the first event taking place there. I think it's the 18th and 19th of this month. So it's great news to find out that that is reopening and is going to be up and running again shortly. It's not just the home of UD Lanzarote. There's also an athletics track around the outside, and they've got shot put sections and high jump and all kinds of stuff. So it's used pretty much every day by school groups or athletes in training, and also by the football team. So great news that that's open and running again. Interesting story this week that a combined operation by Guardia Civil police officers and also Policia Nacional police officers, so 2 of our police forces combined, to visit a lot of the bars in the Puerto del Carmen area, particularly in the nightlife area of Puerto del Carmen. And they were doing 2 things. One group, the Guardia Civil guys, were checking that the bars had the necessary permits to do whatever they were doing in terms of, live music and that kind of stuff. And the other aspect to it was that the Policia Nacional people were checking that all of the staff were legally in the country and that they had proper work contracts. Historically, we've had an issue here with some bars that choose to pay their staff a very low contracted salary and make the difference up with cash. And of course, while that saves them money and the member of staff money on taxation, it does mean that when they do have an issue, they become ill, or we have a pandemic like we did during COVID, the support they get is very low. So it's good to see the police doing their job and making sure that all the bar owners are doing their jobs in Puerto del Carmen. I'm almost bored with saying this, but airport numbers were at a record high again during the month of May. In May, we had 688,717 people come through the airport, which was 3.7% up on the same month last year and a historical record for the month of May. The Canaries as a whole had an increase in arrivals during the month of 4.4%. Now, we've had the dates through for the Papagayo campsite, which is the only official campsite on the island. And this year it will be open from the 1st of July until the 30th of September. Now, the site has 284 plots, of which 67 are smaller plots aimed at tents rather than caravans. You can register if you want to use it now. I get quite frustrated about this because I really don't understand why that campsite isn't open all year round. It's reasonably well equipped. It's got showers and toilets and electricity supply, and there are also kind of communal barbecue areas there which are quite nice. But for some reason it's never ever been opened all year round. And the daft thing to me is that actually camping here in the winter is probably better in the summer because the tents and caravans won't get so hot. But anyway, that's open from the 1st of July to the 30th of September. Now, I promised I'd do something a bit different this week. In the middle of the bulletin every week I give you some useful Spanish words and phrases, and we'll get back to that next week. But this week I just wanted to give you a general tip, and that is a way to increase your vocabulary. Because I think when Spanish is taught, a lot of the emphasis tends to be on, getting the filler words right, understanding how tense works, understanding conjugation of verbs and all that kind of stuff. And actually, in the early days, if you're just using a bit of Spanish while you're wandering around the island, all you need is words. Let me give you an example of that. If you, as an English speaker, were walking in the streets one day and somebody walked up to you and they said something like, restaurant fish near. Now that sentence makes very little sense, but you instantly know what they're asking you. What they're trying to say is, hello, do you know if there is a restaurant nearby that serves fish? So your brain instantly translates that nonsense or mash of words up into a full sentence, and you'll probably answer and say, yes, I know there's a good restaurant around the corner here, go to the top of the road, turn right and it's on your right, or whatever the correct answer is. Well, the same applies in Spanish as well. So if you know the words for restaurant, obviously that's easy, restaurante, fish, pescado, and near, cerca, you can instantly at least ask the question that you want to ask without having all the filler words in between and the tense right and even the order of the words right. So I think the most important thing in the early days of learning Spanish is to build your vocabulary, to give you a sort of treasure chest of words you can use that you can blurt out without necessarily having all the verbs and the conjugation of them in between them, because people will understand what you're getting at. And I think the best way to do that is to read newspapers in Spanish. And I would recommend, if you want to go for a local one, you can do Lanzarote Digital, which is online. You can do La Voz, you can do Diario de Lanzarote, or even Canarias 7, which is a great Canary Islands-wide local newspaper. But if you want to get more international, then go for El País, which is the main newspaper in Spain that I read to get the news about Spain generally. Now, When you first start doing this, just set aside a short amount of time each day. I'm going to read the newspaper for half an hour, because unfortunately it will be painful when you first start, because initially what you'll be doing is looking up more words than you're understanding while you're going through it. So, have an iPad or your laptop at the side of you and open on the Google Translate page and just type the words in and check them. Or if you're on an iPad, you can do an instant translation on your device that way. But those words will start to go in, and you'll find that over time, as you're increasing the words in your treasure chest, that you'll be able to read more and more without having to resort to the translate. And certainly you'll get to the point where you'll understand the gist of an article without having to spend too much time translating it. So give it a try, see if you can start to fill your treasure chest of useful Spanish words up over the next few weeks and months. Okay, and back to the news now. There was a scary bus crash in the village of Malaga this week, where a bus ran into a historical building, and I'll run the picture across, and as you can see, caused a great deal of damage. Fortunately, there were only 3 people on the bus and nobody was injured, including the driver of the bus. So the damage was just physical to the historical building, which unfortunately is going to have to undergo a complete rebuild of that corner of it over the next few weeks and months, which is a long job because, as you can see, the construction is individual stones. Now, we started the bulletin talking about the weather, and I should say that AEMET, which is the weather authority here, have put out a warning this week that we have very, very high ultraviolet on the islands at the moment. The index of the amount of ultraviolet light only goes up to 11, and we are currently at 11 pretty much every day. I only make the point so that those of you who are here or are planning to come here in the next week or so are aware. Make sure you wear good quality sun-cream, reapply it often, and don't spend too long sitting in the sunshine here. You will burn. Now, last weekend we had the 4th annual running of the Livestock, Agriculture and Fishing Fair at the Agricultural Centre, which is between Teguise and San Bartolome. It was massive. 40,000 people attended, and the stuff that goes on there includes horse racing. There is a section where you can try local food and produce, you can taste local wines, you can visit the animals that live there. There's a big goat herd based there, and there's lots more stuff going on. But it was absolutely massive this year, and it has now established itself as one of the biggest events on the island in terms of the people that turn up. In fact, we inadvertently got caught up in the traffic jam of people waiting to go in there when we were travelling home from our walk in La Heria. Now, you'll note I haven't talked about the new underpass at Playa Honda recently because it isn't open yet. And there are just a few finishing touches to be done, which include panelling for the underpass on the walls on the side and a few bits and pieces with the gardens. But it's expected to open within the next 10 days or so. So I'll give you the good news, and what I plan to do as soon as it's open is go down there and drive through it so I can understand actually how it's going to work, because it's still not completely clear in my head. And the final story on the news this week is that volunteers got together to do a beach cleanup in Puerto del Carmen on one of the beaches there. And this is something that happens regularly on all of the beaches on the island. So the word goes out, volunteers required, please come and help do a beach cleanup. Julie and I have done several of them over the years. This particular one yielded 65 kilos of weight. Of rubbish, basically. But within that, they collected around 4,000 cigarette butts, which is just horrible. And there's a move at the moment on the island to go to banning smoking on the beach, and I hope that happens. If it doesn't happen, at least big fines for putting your cigarette butt in the sand, and perhaps ashtrays around all of the beaches. But I'll keep you posted on both of those stories and whether they do come to fruition in the future. So it's time to talk about the things you should be doing if you are on the island over the next 7 days. And the first of them I'll mention is the Fiesta de San Juan. San Juan, St. John, is the patron saint of Arria. So it's a really big festival that takes place here in Arria and will do over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And there are all kinds of different events that will be going on. For example, this weekend, Saturday, we have a car rally and various other things going on, and the celebration of the 24th year that the Arria market has been running. And San Juan always culminates in a fiesta of fire, which happens on the last night of the fiesta, and it's just a very, very good event to enjoy and watch. If you want to know more detail about what's going on as part of Fiesta de San Juan in Arria, go to our What's On pages. So it's lanzaroteinformation.co.uk. Then click the button that says What's On, and then List View, and you can scroll through all of the things that are going on here in Arria and everywhere else on the island over the next few weeks. Now, next Saturday, the 21st, is Corpus Christi, and it's a really big deal in the Spanish Catholic calendar. What you will find is that villages all across Spain produce carpets of flowers, where all the villagers get together and they gather flowers from the local forests and from their gardens and produce beautiful designs using these flowers of flags and people and all kinds of stuff. Now, the issue the Canaries always had with this was that we don't really have an awful lot of flowers that grow naturally, particularly here in Lanzarote. So centuries ago, the Lanzaroteños decided that they would do these carpets with salt rather than with flowers. And it was relatively easy for them to gather the required amount of salt from the sea, and they would then colour different batches of this salt. So you'll have a blue pile, a yellow pile, a red pile, and so on. And then they can create the designs of the salt carpets using salt rather than flowers. And it's a charming thing to go and watch. And what you'll find is that next weekend, Saturday the 21st, almost all of the villages on the island will be creating their salt carpets somewhere. So if you're passing through a village, stop and park the car, go and find where they're doing these alfombras de sal, as they're called, and see, you can see the people actually building them and making them in groups together, and then you'll see the finished product either late on Saturday afternoon or early on Sunday morning. Again, there's more detail on that in our What's On section. And the final thing I want to tell you about that's also happening next Saturday the 21st is an open day by the Short Mat Bowls Club based in Puerto del Carmen. And they play at the Hyde Park Lane property in Puerto del Carmen, kind of at the San Antonio end of the resort. And they're inviting anyone, residents, tourists, whatever, along to their open day. And you'll have an opportunity to have a crack at short mat bowlings and see whether you're any good at it, and if you want to perhaps start joining them on a regular basis. But they've also got all kinds of other stuff going on the open day. And I'm just going to read from my iPad now. They've got jewellery, mosaics, painted rocks, sun catchers, greetings cards, bags, woodcrafts, some support for the Malaga cats, wind charms, dream catchers, chutneys and jams, macrame. It just goes on, face painting. So if you've got kids, they'll probably enjoy that. And it sounds like it's going to be a really good day on Saturday the 21st. And it all kicks off at 10 a.m. And as I say, it takes place at the Hyde Park Lane Apartments complex. So that's it for this week. That brings you up to date with the news, the weather and everything else we cover in these bulletins. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a like. It really does help our reach. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We produce this video every Saturday, another one on a Tuesday, which is generally a kind of historic or informational video. And on a Thursday, we always do a walkabout video. Thanks so much for watching. We really do appreciate you giving up your time. Bye for now, everyone. Bye.